IELTS Listening Part 1. Instructions for the speaker. Read the following script once only, at a natural IELTS listening pace. Pause briefly before and after important information. Spell names and email addresses clearly. Do not reveal the answers separately until the end. Good morning. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I am calling to book a holiday to New Zealand. Let me give you my contact details first. My phone number is 07482 619 My email address is sarah.mitchell27@gmail.com. Now, regarding my trip, I'd like to travel to Queenstown, in New Zealand. I'm planning to leave on the 15th of November and return on the 28th of November. There will be 3 people traveling all together. For accommodation, we'd like to stay in a city hotel. I'd also like to make a special request. If possible, we'd really appreciate a lake view room because we'd like to enjoy the scenery. Let me check the cost. The total cost is $2,450. I'll make a $500 deposit today, and I'll pay the remaining amount later. Thank you for helping me arrange the holiday. IELTS Listening Part 2. Instructions for the speaker. Read the script once only at a natural IELTS listening pace. Give clear directions using words such as north, south, left, right, opposite, next to, behind, and near. Pause briefly after important information. Do not reveal the answers until the end. Good afternoon, everyone. In this recording, I'm going to explain the facilities on the Riverside College campus. Please follow the map carefully and write the correct information in questions 11 to 18. Let's begin at the library, which is in the northwestern part of the campus. Inside the library, there is a study room where students can work quietly. So, the answer for question 11 is study room. Now look across the central fountain towards the student center. At the entrance of the student center, you will find the information desk. This is where students can ask questions or get help. For question 12, write information desk. Moving towards the western side of the campus, we come to the sports center. The main facility here is the gym, which is available for students throughout the week. The answer to question 13 is gym. In the center of the campus is the main building, which contains the administration offices. On the first floor, there is a staff room. Therefore, question 14 is staff room. To the east of the main building is the cafeteria. Behind the cafeteria, near the riverside path, you will find the swimming pool. So, the answer for question 15 is swimming pool. Now let's move to the southwestern corner. This is the car park, but there is also an art room located beside it. The art room is used for painting and other creative activities. For question 16, write art room. In the southern central area, you can see the garden. Just beside the garden is a quiet computer room, where students can use computers for study and research. The answer to question 17 is computer room. Finally, in the southeastern part of the campus, there is the lecture hall. Next to the lecture hall is the bookshop, where students can buy textbooks, notebooks and other study materials. Therefore, question 18 is bookshop. Now look at questions 19 and 20. You have a list of places labeled A to H. For question 19, the question asks, which place is where you can buy textbooks and other stationery? The answer is the bookshop, so choose B. For question 20, the question asks, which place is where students can use computers? That is the computer room, so choose C. That is the end of part 2. EL's Listening Part 3. Instructions for the speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the history of public libraries and how their role has changed over time. The idea of libraries is certainly not new. In ancient Egypt, for example, there were important centers of learning, including the famous Library of Alexandria. This library was believed to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls, making it one of the most important collections of written knowledge in the ancient world. However, these early libraries were mainly intended for scholars, rather than ordinary members of the public. The modern public library movement began in the 19th century. One important development was the establishment of the first free public library in Manchester in 1852. The main purpose of these libraries was to provide free education and access to information for everyone, particularly people who could not afford to buy books themselves. During the 19th century, public libraries spread rapidly across Europe and North America. Many of them received financial support from the local government, while others benefited from generous donations made by wealthy individuals. Today, public libraries are much more than places where people simply borrow books. Modern libraries provide internet access, computer courses, language classes, and many other services for members of the community. Looking ahead, libraries are likely to become even more accessible through the use of digital technology. However, they will continue to play an important role as safe and friendly spaces where people of all ages can learn, study, and meet others. So, although libraries have changed considerably over the centuries, their basic purpose remains the same, providing people with access to knowledge and opportunities for learning. That concludes today's talk.
EL's Listening Part 4. Good afternoon. Today I am going to explain the process of how coffee is made, from growing the coffee plant to preparing the final drink. The process begins with growing. Coffee plants are normally cultivated in warm climates, where the conditions are suitable for producing high quality coffee cherries. When the cherries become ripe, they are picked by hand. Workers carefully select the ripe red cherries and collect them in large baskets. The next stage is sorting. The good cherries are separated from damaged cherries. This is important because poor quality cherries can affect the taste of the final coffee. After sorting, the cherries go through a processing stage. At this point, machines remove the outer skin and pulp from the coffee cherries, leaving the beans. The beans then need to be dried. They are placed in the sun until the moisture level is reduced to approximately 12%. Proper drying helps prevent the beans from becoming spoiled during storage. Once the beans are dry, they are hulled. This process removes the remaining outer layer surrounding the beans. The beans are then sorted again. This time, they are classified according to their size and color. This helps producers maintain a consistent quality. Next comes roasting, one of the most important stages. The beans are roasted to develop their flavor and aroma. The length and temperature of roasting can influence the final taste of the coffee. After roasting, the beans are ground into a fine powder. The exact size of the coffee grounds depends on the brewing method that will be used. The ground coffee is then mixed with hot water to make coffee. The water extracts the flavor and aroma from the ground beans. Finally, the coffee is ready for serving. It can be poured into a cup and is ready to drink. One final point concerns temperature. For the best results, the water used for brewing coffee should generally be between 90 and 96 degrees Celsius. Water that is too cold may not extract enough flavor, while excessively hot water can produce an unpleasant taste. So, to summarize, coffee production involves a series of stages: growing, picking, sorting, processing, drying, hulling, sorting again, roasting, grinding, brewing, and finally serving. That concludes the lecture.